goes green. Hello and thank you for joining. This is your host Wind and another exciting Warcast, part of Utopia News and Muga News. The date today is March 7th, year 1, and we're going to look at all the wars currently in progress, and several have finished already. So we're going to take a look at them as well. Today I have a special guest with me, Benji, who you all may know is well known in the community, and he's part of the Changes Council. He was on several of the previous videos as well, where we talked about the age changes. So welcome, Benji. Again, this is age 95, the age of Omen. Age of the Omen. Alright, what we're going to do is just our usual thing here. Let's just get on with it so we can get to the warring stuff. Be sure to check out GIMS' awesome theme. It's a blue theme. It makes Utopia blue. To be honest, it's pretty sweet. So you should definitely check it out. I use it all the time. And it also, it works with all the bot integration as well, so it's not all messed up. So it's definitely one of the working themes. Again, if anyone else has any awesome themes out there, be sure to message me, and I'll be sure to include them on the news. Again, GIMS' tools. All the links, by the way, are posted in the video on the YouTube site. Again, on my screen here. GIMS' tools, you got your Draft Home Specialist, Dragon Science, Plunder, and War History, which is going to be really important. Again, KAGGES Utopia tools as well for formatting and things like that. He's also got a Utopia Calc. Be sure to, an Elite Calculator, sorry. Be sure to check out the Muga Gaming store where they sell all the merchandise. And of course, be sure to participate in the forums as well. As you can see, several people are viewing. Many people are actually viewing the Utopia Talk channel even right now. So it just shows you the forums are still around. They're not by any means dead. Be sure to check them out. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely something that everyone should participate in. Looking at the top 10 chart, Benji, are you following along here with me on the on the thing here? Perfect. All right, cool. So just looking at the again, this is the top 10 kingdoms chart, not the top 10 honor chart. Is it any surprises or anything, based on some of the kingdom setups that you looked at when the age was starting, that surprised you in any way? In the top 10, I don't really see anyone who stands out. Is it like colors is there? I mean, is it the real kingdom colors? We're not sure. Super villains, like we see them all the time now. But is it just the theme, or is there a kingdom named super villains now? Who knows?
At the moment, it's really just themes. No real standouts. I mean, there's obviously, if you look at the survey, we've got a lot of orcs as we expected to happen. So there's a lot of smashing of orc, but there also has been some interesting, there's been a few dryad cores that I didn't expect to see, so I'll be interested to see how that plays out for the rest of the age. Not as many avians as I thought there would be, in terms of comp, so that's very interesting to me, so I'll be interested to see how that goes towards the later part of the age. There is definitely a few lovers of the human from a core perspective, and it appears that while there was a lot of distaste in terms of maybe TMs could have been buffed a little bit more towards the end of the changes, it seems like overall they seem to be faring okay, at least from what I can see. I think is a little bit more of a challenge for them coming out of BOP than what usually would be, but I think they're in a good space at the moment, but we'll see how it plays out. But yeah, nothing massively stand out in terms of the people at the top at the moment for me. Still too early to say, but there's definitely been some interesting wars.
Yeah, and we're definitely going to check that out. So, obviously the honor thing is probably not going to look much different than that. I mean, everyone's really close together now, except for this one 6-7 kingdom and 5-6-3. Sorry, seem to be battling for the top right now in honor. But again, everyone's super close, and one war could change this completely. So just looking at the wars in progress or completed, we've actually got quite a number of wars. To be honest, I'm not sure if we've missed one or not. I have to check, later on to see if I did miss one. But it looks like, we've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, at least 25, 26 wars going on here. So everyone's been quite busy, although...
Which is good, because I was just going to say it's good because we did have concerns when we removed the science bonus from End of War CF, that we would see less wars, but it seems to be, at the moment at least anyway, we haven't stopped it, so that's good.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And again, anyone in the audience, if you're interested in making a comment about any of the wars or joining in on the chat, be sure to raise your hand in the room, and you can put your piece in or ask a question if you want even. So, just a quick look actually at who's on the war charts right now. We've got this kingdom called the Fluffy Island. Is that Fluffalicious or Fluffy or whatever they call themselves? Who knows? It could be them, maybe not. Maybe someone impersonating them. Otherwise, looks like we got cryptids here. The core is tagged out early. Who else is here? Is Phoenix Rising Kingdom sounds familiar. Colors, maybe that's Colors, maybe not. Is anyone else here? Court of Aaron. I wonder if that's Knights of Aaron. Some other players may have remembered them from a long time ago. Who knows? It could very well be them. And of course, Pirates is tagged out and in War. It seems like every time I do a Warcast, Pirates where I've got to give them that. They may not have the best war win record, but they definitely have one of the highest average wars per age, I think, out of any kingdom, win or lose. So, good on them for at least being able to get those wars in the first place, because you can just go to the Discord and see people crying about how they can't get wars all the time. So. Let's look at the first war here. It's a hostile STFO, and again the Fluffy Island message for war. Let's just take a quick look at the breakdown here to see what they've got in terms of attackers and TMs. Looks like dwarfs with an avian and orc on hostile. Here's one of those dryad kingdoms you were talking about, Benji. They've got mostly dryad core. With some elves and halflings. I mean, this is pretty obvious what these are. These are their casters. These are their thieves or rogues. So I mean, this is a blatantly obvious setup. I mean, there's no hiding here. I mean, it really doesn't matter what they picked, if they're half blood or pure blood. Like you pretty much know what these guys are. On the opposite hand here, the avians, the dwarfs, elves and fairies and halflings. So the fairies are probably playing some kind of, again, it's a TM role. It's they're stealing and casting spells, duration spells, things like that, or whatever their assignment is. And then orcs and dwarves. I mean, dwarves look pretty beefy this age, and definitely with the free build, that's very appealing. Actually, it's extremely appealing because it helps keep your BE up and things like that. So I mean, there's lots of hidden importance to that dwarf BE boost, and of course their ability to build for free, of course. And orcs, if those are pure orcs, they're drafting for free. So this is a pretty solid kingdom setup, I've got to say. Both sides seem to have it. And again, like you said, if I was curious to see how these dryad cores or dryad kingdoms make out this age, actually, because some people speculated they would do very poorly. Others speculated that they could possibly do something. So in conclusion of this war, it looks like the Dryad Kingdom actually won this Out of Protection war. So it probably doesn't say too much. It probably just tells me that the Dryads had their innate bonus of being a support caster. So a combination of spells.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that
makes a difference.
You're looking at like a pretty, I mean, out of op, it's all it's runes, money, and who's got the strongest spell kit power behind them, and having a core that has the DS, IS, WS all behind itself, lends to obviously giving them a bit of assistance. So yeah, it's interesting to see it actually. Good on them for the win.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's take a look at the rest of the charts there. I mean, that's the KD land chart, just for everyone who's watching. Looking at the net worth chart, again, it looks like Fluffy was came in at the bottom basically of this war, but they managed to pull away and achieve victory at the top. You can see a nice convergence here at the end, where they weren't actually really able to converge at all throughout the entire war, essentially, until the end. Somehow they managed to pull it off after a long battle. So again, I don't think maybe I missed any wars here, because it definitely looks like everyone's having some pretty long wars here. So I'm not too sure. Maybe we'll keep an eye on that to see how many min-time victories there are this age, to see if something happened in the changes that made a difference there. Again, you see the same thing on the honor side, not too much difference. So we're going to move on to the next war. Great job, guys. Pantheon versus Hire Me. This war should also be completed, I believe, because they're at 8 days as well, 197 hours. So they're in their ceasefire right now. Quickly looking at the races, looks like we've got a really dwarf heavy kingdom, like way more than usual. Maybe not so much because they're just a little bit TM light, but the dryads I guess could be considered support casters. So I guess that's part of their TM crew. But this is a pretty dwarf heavy kingdom, the Hire Me kingdom. Regardless of what they are, you know, I would guess they're probably pureblood dwarfs. But
give me nightmares to war that.
Yeah, that would be my guess. This is totally something like Ascension would have done in the past. Maybe a couple extra TMs like casters or something. But let's looking at the other side. Pantheon. We got Avian, Dryad, Dwarf. We got our casters. Elf. Maybe it's possible the dwarves could be like halflings or something like that, or maybe all the elves are just casters. Maybe they don't actually have any pure rogues at all in this kingdom.
Possibly, yeah. I mean, there's definitely been a few setups. I think there's a few setups that are definitely running no rogues this stage.
Yeah, so we'll keep an eye on that as well, because I don't see elf as a good pick for to have a halfling sub. So I doubt that they're running elf halfling in this combo. If anything, it might be the dwarves. They definitely have enough power or muscle between the orcs, the dryad, and the avian, though. So it's possible these dwarves could be, you know, part halfling or something, because that BE boost makes a huge difference. Also, being able to build for free, that frees up a lot of GCs for sure. So let's take a look at who actually won this war. Looking at the land side of things, Hire Me actually won, so that's the dwarf heavy kingdom. But as most of these outer protection wars are, if they don't end early on, usually one kingdom ends up pulling it back and converging, which is kind of what happened here. Except, unlike the last war we looked at, it looks like Hire Me was actually able to, that is the dwarf kingdom, was actually able to converge several times throughout the war, and only when it looked like they were about to lose, they must have made a big play here, because they did a ton of damage to the Pantheon kingdom, and it kind of that's where they ended up withdrawing from the war. Looking at the net worth side of things, again, you see the same story, except there's just the convergence lines are much closer, the gaps are a lot tighter, but again, Hire Me was able to pull this back. Again, this is a fairly long war, I think. Let's just check the months here. Yeah, this is another long war. So so far the first two wars, very long wars. Great job, guys. Again, looking at the honor side of things, sorry. Again, it's kind of similar to the network.
Looks like there's been a few actually long wars.
Yeah, so I think maybe that's just the play style that everyone has. Let's see what Empyreans is up to. I don't think I mentioned them earlier, but that's Empyrean. They're tagged out early as always. Let's see what they're running. Looks like a standard setup from the olden times. Maybe a little bit TM heavy. Lots of elves, halflings. Got a human, orcs, avians, dryads for support casters, some dwarves. The dwarves are probably attackers. They got a nice, regular style loadout there. Unnamed kingdoms, another dryad heavy kingdom here, except they're backed by orcs. So you got a lot of support casters here, which is, to be honest, is very nice to have. One thing you'll find you're running out of later in the age is mana and runes that could be allocated to support casters. So just having the extra support casters in the first place can make a huge difference right off the bat. So that, you probably see some dryad victories early on. And let's see if that's what happened. It looks like that's what happened. So the Dryad Kingdom did actually win this war and defeated Empyrean. Let's take a look at the net worth side of things. If it loads, there we go. Yeah, so anyway, Secret Desires, as they're called now. I think they were Unnamed Kingdom when they started the war. Actually, was pretty much in control of this war most of the time. They were always on top. The enemy was able to converge, but they were never able to get away. So, based on the trend lines, it was pretty obvious that Secret Desires was gonna win this one. But they didn't clinch the victory early, that's for sure. It's definitely hard to do that in out of protection wars. I mean, I think everyone comes out of a high from the previous age, and last thing they want to do is withdraw in that first war. But remember, guys, there's only so much time for so many wars in an age. So I mean, theoretically, the best thing to do is to get as many, let's say, mid-time wars as possible. which is what we're seeing here. This is actually shorter war. This is a mid-time war. So I think, you know, this is the first one so far out of all of them that hasn't been a very long war. On the honor side of things, we're kind of seeing the same thing. Yeah, so again, Dryad victory here on this side here. So great job, everyone. Let's look at the next kingdom. What are you afraid of versus before and after? Message for war. Let's take a quick look at their race setups on what are
People loving the Dryad.
Yeah, apparently. Yeah, so we got some nice Dryads here, but again, backed heavily by Orcs. You got your Halfling crew, so they're rogue heavy, and they've got their Elves for casters. Whereas before and after, looks like they have an Avian attacker core. Again, your token Dryads. Yeah, lots of, you know, as I said, I was expecting to see 3 to 4 Dryads per kingdom. You know, because that's usually what you'd pull for support casters. Maybe 2 to 4 is more reasonable, depending on, you know, how many TMs you actually want to run. Because, you know, definitely it comes down to, do you want a support caster or do you want a heavy attacker? Usually, like, you wouldn't necessarily sacrifice a TM for a support caster. That's maybe not the best decision, unless someone really, really wanted to play it and the player was really good. But anyway, getting away from that, again, looks, you know, pretty support casters. Both sides fairly TM heavy. I mean, this seems like a pretty evenly matched war, just looking at the races. Quick look at the numbers. Looks like, you know, we're going to pull the data on this, but it looks
an interesting
like,
war.
Yeah, just looking at the land, I mean, it constantly goes back and forth, but before and after seems to, after several convergences, clinch victory there before, I guess, a wave could be completed, because it looks like they were on their path to convergence again. But because of the Orcs on the opposite side with their gains, I think they were able to, you know, keep growing in land. So no matter what, they were able to stay afloat because of that alone. That's why you don't see the Orcs dropping really, or the land dropping so much on the land chart there. But looking at the net worth chart here, you can see a steady incline. Like normally you see this staircase that I'm pointing out here. Here, I'll even draw it on the screen for everyone here using my nifty tools. So as you can see, there's like a staircase effect going on here, and this is actually like a positive trend line for the Red Kingdom. We can see blues on a steady decline, wave over wave. Just do a quick line for that as well. Oh, that's a terrible color. We're going to change that back. Oops. Let's get rid of that. Oh, shoot. Stupid thing. Alright, there we go. Let's just go like that. Yeah, anyway, so that's a positive staircase basically there. I mean, really looks like the Red Kingdom is pulling up there, and it allows them to clinch victory. But it looks like it was a pretty tight war from the beginning, looking at the net worth side. I mean, I think that the Blue Kingdom had definitely a starting advantage with the free draft, those Orcs that they had, and then also the extra Halflings, which allows them to steal resources easier. I mean, this seems like the kingdom was easily set up to win out of protection. Definitely a dangerous kingdom to play against, both of them for sure. But again, you know, keep an eye on those Orcs. Again, one of my favorite
I think
races in the game. Looking at the honor side of things on this one, I mean, that's kind of what I expected to see. They both ended in roughly the same spot.
I think it's interesting to see an Orc core versus an Avian core. That's my main take from this.
Yeah, I would definitely think the Avian side would be the harder one to play. In general, Avian is usually a little bit harder to play. Orc's always slightly easier to play and really smashes hard. I mean, they're the true heavy attacker. Again, one of my favorites. But you know, hopefully they're, for their sake, they're running pure Orcs, because that would be the best thing to do with this one. But you know, I'm kind of shocked that the Orc Kingdom didn't win here, because you know, I would think Orc would be a better pick than Avian, let's say. But Avian's still very playable. Clearly, it can stand up to Orc here. So as we can see, there wasn't any really large swings in either direction for either of them, except for the middle of the war, where actually they started to pull it back. And even then, you know, they were nearing convergence on every wave. I'd say maybe they didn't converge on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 waves, and this war lasted a pretty long time. This just ended recently, actually. Was there anything you want to say about this one, Benji?
Yeah, if you look at the Fairy Acres.
Let Pessane, because he was just talking.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you look at the Fairy Acres, at the finishing acres, the war probably came to the point of the fairies and elves converted better and got safer faster. And that's probably what drew the war to an end, because the ending acres on the elves and fairies were higher for before and after Message for War.
Thanks.
So they were probably building unbreakables.
Thanks for joining.
Yeah, it looks that way. But it was, I mean, look, you can see the power of what an Orc KD can do out of op with those bonuses. But in the end, it looks like
I mean,
look they overwhelmed in the end.
If you look at the land side of things, the Orcs definitely don't have a problem keeping up there. I mean, they're always going to have land coming in. The free draft gives up space, extra GC. Yeah, it definitely gives them
if you just
GC
look,
to build.
Every halfling and
of course, Persian cuts out right when he's explaining the best part.
Well, I stopped because you look at the Orcs aren't going to be crushed to 50 acres out of protection, and
yeah, exactly. I mean,
I see every fairy is 200, 200, 200. The halflings are up as well. The avian acres, okay, there was one or two fat ones. Same with, the Orcs. There's a couple fat ones, but somebody was able to put on net worth onto their elves and fairies better, and that's just typically how you win out of protection.
Yep, agree.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, you don't want your attackers necessarily going to very low defensive levels as well. That's something you want to keep an eye on as well, because it's easy to just go full suicide and be like, oh, I don't need defense, or I only need minimal no defense because everyone's going to be able to attack me no matter what, especially when you're part of the core and you've been through the chain anyway. Usually you don't have too much D-specs left, especially after dragons and such. I mean, usually your core starts running out of specs very quickly, and I'm surprised with these longer wars that if I feel like in this case people were running out of troops on their cores as well. Especially some of these larger provinces that before and after has, like the avians and dryads, these guys probably had an average defense maybe by the end of the war, and that's maybe the only reason they're able to get to the top without being taken advantage of, because that would be sweet gains for sure on these guys these top three guys here for sure. If they had another wave, let's say, lots of acres would have been exchanged for sure, especially with that Orcs gains as well. That would look really nice for the other kingdom. Did you guys have anything else you guys wanted to say about this war before we move on to the next one? We still have quite a few wars to cover here.
It just looks like it was a bit of a brutal one. Look at the net worth per acre on both sides. Looks like there was a lot of masses potentially. But apart from that, yeah, looks like it was a good war.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too. I mean, TPA and WPA is so essential early on. It can literally make or break the game, like we see with the Dryad heavy kingdoms, with their
there you go, Persian. Victories. Your masses are still there, mate.
I didn't use Massacre a single time in my out of protection war.
That's awesome. Anyway, I've been massacred in the past 10 wars, I think, maybe more, in a row. And I play core all the time, so that just goes to show how popular Massacre actually is, because I get myself into many wars every age. So great war, everyone there. Looks like it was a hard-fought battle. Neither side really wanted to give up, but it seemed like one side just had a stronger performing kingdom at the end of the day. Whether that was just the enemy maybe giving up, or, I wouldn't say that. I'd definitely say they were fighting hard here on both sides pretty much the entire way through. But I think it was pretty obvious by the last few waves that they weren't going to be able to beat this kingdom. So great job everyone there.
I think was just gonna say, I think any war that gets to, your 7th, 8th day mark, even 6th day, 8th mark, you really start to, it's willpower at that point for most kingdoms.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's look at the Cryptids War versus Sexy Time. Let's take a look at the race setup. All right, it looks like we've got a good amount of Dryads here on Sexy Time. Only 3 Dryads on the opposite side. So yeah, I mean, a good balance of Dryads throughout the world so far on the Warring Kingdoms anyway. Looking at the breakdown, Cryptids is running Avian, Dryads for support, Dwarf probably as attackers. They got their Elf caster, a lot of TMs here. 5 elves, 1 fairy, 2 halflings, a human probably an attacker, and an orc core for attacking as well, versus Sexy Time, who's running 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 dryads, 2 dwarves. So those dryads are probably, that's part of their core, and their support casters as well. The dwarves part of the core, elf casters, 2 halflings, so light on rogues. Humans probably part of core as well. It'd be interesting to see if they're playing them as some sort of TM though. Orc backing as well. So it seems like everyone's picking a few orcs as well, at least in their kingdoms. Let's check out this war and see where they're at right now. Just looking at the numbers, it looks like Sexy Time is doing slightly better. And they could very well, they actually did win this war. So looks like on the net worth side of things, this is another very closely fought war. Although Sexy Time had a very strong performance here, they suffered some massive dips in their net worth on the waves, it seems like. So Cryptids definitely fought hard to converge here. Looks like Cryptids is having possibly a serious age this age, who knows. Because this is a really hard fought battle, even if it is just an out of protection war, maybe even more hard fought than the last one, because these net worth lines are barely moving at all. I mean, they're pretty good. Movement on both sides for sure, and they're almost done their protection. Their end of war ceasefire, and this war didn't actually last that long, nowhere near as long as the last one. So still, I'd say this is probably like a medium length war, but so far we've had definitely more long wars than short ones, because we've only really seen 1 min time so far, a medium, and then like 4 long wars. So let's see how the trend continues here out of the kingdoms that are completed. So congratulations to Sexy Time. You really kicked Cryptids' butt, but Cryptids fought hard in this one. But great job, Sexy Time. Let's move on to the next one. Children Book Rejects versus Before I Was 21. Let's take a look at the race lineup here. We got some Dryads on one side, and again, lots of Dryads here. We're starting to see, almost a half Dryad core in every kingdom, every other kingdom, Benji. There's a lot of them out there.
No, it's interesting. It wasn't what I would have expected.
I think the support casting ability is very appealing to a lot of people. I definitely like it myself, but I'd prefer to play like a more heavy attacker style role and have less support. But that it's good to see people having some variety in their setups. Lots of casters here. Looks again backed by Orf. This looks like a half TM, half attacker kingdom. On Before I Was 21. Children's Book of Rejects. We got 2 avians for attacking, dryads for support casting. We've got 4 elves for casting, 3 halflings, and we've got some humans here as well. Maybe they're playing a TM role, maybe not. That could just be part of the avian orc alliance here. Very strange to see all 3 of them working together. Anyway, when you think about fluff, anyway, but either way, this is basically an orc kingdom versus a dryad kingdom.
Win C-Dob wants to ask a question, I think.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, you don't have the ability to pull people in, do you? I think only myself and Persian Cat can actually do that. All right, C-Dob, you just have to check your screen. There should be like a green box either at the top or the bottom or left or right, depending on what device you have, and it will allow you to speak. For some reason, it's like a 3-part confirmation in order to join and talk in this thing. Definitely think they have some kinks to work out with this setup, but see if you can find it. You got it.
So one thing I just kind of wanted to point out is, I really props to the rules committee on this one, because it looks like we're having a lot of long wars, which and out of protection war is usually based on which side has the better setup, i.e., better setup and initial bonuses. But it seems to be that we have a lot of very even, very long out of protection wars, which I think is lending to say that the bonuses at least seem balanced coming out of protection, which is always nice to see. We'll see if that holds up throughout the length of the age, but it's nice seeing that it's not just a, hey, you pick this one race, you're hosed out of protection just because it's garbage. Now, granted, we haven't seen a ton of humans in the wars yet, but overall, I'd say it looks like there's a lot of balance that went into this.
Yeah, so far we haven't really seen a human kingdom. No one's had a human core just yet, at war anyway, that I've seen. So we'll see.
Yeah, any human kingdom against an orc core right now is asking for punishment. But I agree with C-Dob, and I think, Persian, you can comment on this too. I think, look, overall, if you look at the wars, there is definitely more lengthier wars at the moment, overall, out of op, which to me is an indication of, we've obviously balanced cores and TMs fairly well, I would say. There's no oh my god, clear winner comp out there at the moment. I think at least from what I can see, obviously it's out of op and it's early days, but I think we're doing okay at the moment. I feel anyway in terms of the balance.
Yeah, we haven't seen any one kingdom just crush their out of protection war too bad. I mean, we have some large kingdoms and some ones who have won kind of nicely, but with the exception of 3-3 just shooting up everyone, I don't see anyone who just was able to really farm hard out of protection.
And looking at the kingdoms that you've went through so far, Wind, you can see there is a good diversity to the picks. I'm not seeing you would see probably 1 or 2 ages ago a 1 or 2, 3 race setup, and that was it. I think you can see there's a lot of diverse kingdoms out there, so I think people are really balancing up, the half-blood, true-blood bonuses and really defining their roles, which I think is good, because that's kind of what, and I'm Persian, please comment here, but, that was kind of the intention when Persian brought the races in. If you really want to play a true-blood race and really be defined as that race, then, you get those sort of bonuses, but there are trade-offs. But if you want to, be a mixture, and I feel like we've got it pretty well this age, in my opinion. I
agree, because the point now is that you're not seeing the person who went fairy and is god, but the people who go true bloods are still getting the bonus really coupling and are still actually being drawn, which I think is exactly what you're aiming for when you're trying to balance kingdom setups and looking at how all the kingdoms balance their setups.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, the only way you can really find out what everyone is up to, unfortunately, with the game is by taking the intel. There's no way you can check in the target finder who is what and who is pure. So, looking at this, it looks like the Dryad Kingdom won again here. I'm just keeping an eye on how many Dryad heavier kingdoms are winning here out of protection as well. This was a fairly quick war as well. Definitely looked like, from the land side of things, it was pretty even on the waves. Network side of things, they were tight. I mean, they converged pretty much on every wave here on both sides. So definitely a hard-fought battle. Looks like these two kingdoms are actually getting ready for their next war. They're actually building their troops right now. Up, you can see there's the cash build and the dump, and this is tick by tick elites and troops coming in. Kind of cool to see. So this war finished quite a while ago as well. Network side of things, again, a very tight war. Honor side of things, looks like before I was 21 kind of pulled away, pretty much, right around this time here, after the sixth wave roughly, they kind of started pulling away, and it looks like they were gonna take that war just based on the honor alone. So again, the Orc Kingdom, or the Orc Heavy Kingdom, loses the war, and the Dryad Kingdom wins. Is it a surprise? Maybe not. Alright, let's take a look at the next one.
I feel like with Orc, I feel like if you're gonna play Orc and you're gonna play Orc Pure Blood, it's, you smash in numbers. Like, I don't know, Persian, what you think, but I mean, like, if you're gonna play it, you gotta play in power and numbers. The mixture, I think, is not going to be to your advantage if you're trying to have a few orcs and a balance of everything else. But that's just my take on it.
Yeah, the issue with orcs losing to avians out of protection is that this age, the elites are close enough for short conversions that the attack time really is countering the actual gains and offense, at least for out of protection. Typically, when we had avians that were just buffed to beyond things, that the orc actually hit so much harder that even a stronger avian couldn't keep up. But this age, avian is just in the spot where it can actually compete, literally just due to attack.
I think also, to your point, with the reduction in the mass timer, but still the mass being meaningful, you really have to think about when you use that and attack times. So yeah I think avian's just in that right place.
Awesome. Let's take a look at the next one. It looks like we've got lots of orcs in the next one, at least again, but this is kind of a one-sided war. One Elfin versus Age of Empires. Looks like Age of Empires missing 2 provinces. Whether or not they were in the first place remains to be seen. But this could have been an even war at the beginning. Looks like heavy orcs on both sides, but lots of TMs as well on the enemy side here. One Elfin has some humans, Dwarf Dry. It looks like they're just short of players or something, or the way they ran their setup. They're running very lean in certain departments, and just having like one support caster, for instance, is maybe not enough for the higher level wars, especially when you commit a whole province to support casting. You really gotta have 2, because again, that province can very easily run out of mana, and it definitely can't support the entire kingdom along with itself as well, especially if you expect it to attack. It's definitely not something it can do alone. Even 2 is stretching it. I mean, you kind of really want to have 3. But looking at this one, I mean, it should be no shock that, or it should be a shock, I guess, that Age of Empires won. I always wonder how, a kingdom with less provinces could pull off a win, especially with 2 or even less provinces. I mean, there must have been something not really going on the enemy side here. I mean, it's interesting to look at this war. I mean, this is definitely something Beaches would do, probably. They go in with less provinces and end up winning the war against a kingdom that, probably looks like they should have won. I'm not saying this is Beaches, but this is kind of how they would play their hand here in this war, and they won.
Hey, Win, one thing to also think about and consider is, sometimes it looks like they only have 1 Dryad, but that might just be the 1 pure, and they could have, X Dryad as well as that support caster.
Yeah, this is true. This is true as well. And I mean, again, you really need to take the intel. Like, only a SOT or a CB will actually tell you what they are. So, unfortunately, the target finder doesn't tell us. But yeah, so there could be very well more Dryads. In fact, that's why I pulled up the legend here. So let's just take a look here at how many part Dryads there actually are. Looks like people are doing part Avian Dryad. Sorry, that's Dwarf Dryad. Where is there? Oh, it's 10. Yeah, so 10. So Avian. Yeah, some Avians, 3 Dwarves, 10 Elves, 3 Fairies, 5 Halflings, and 7 Humans. So maybe those random humans, one-off humans and Avians we were seeing in some of those previous kingdoms were actually part Dryad as well, so they could do some support casting. That's very likely. And definitely an interesting combo. I mean, I could see the benefit to running some kind of setup.
Still,
like
every time I look at the survey, I don't know if you think the same, Persian. I just look at the 286 True Blood Orcs, and I was just like, wow, Orc Smash is the real thing this age.
Yeah, well, and then there's another 200 part blood Orc.
Yeah.
So,
and
yes, Orc has definitely gone off the top this age.
There's 145 true-blooded humans, so there's got to be some human cores floating around there somewhere. I mean, I haven't looked at the dump yet to see who's got what. in the entire world.
Look, I've already said from the get-go in the changes, I don't know if Persian, when he was in the changes, if he thinks the same. I still think human is going to be a powerhouse mid to late age, if you play it right. It does have its vulnerabilities with the learn protection mostly gone now, but if you do play a human true blood core properly, you will be rewarded later on. So I can understand why there are picks there.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely a good number of picks as well. So be interesting to see, because there's not too many avians, but there's almost twice as many humans. Mostly the world's mostly orcs, and there's some dwarves, lots of dryads too. I mean, dryad is the third top most picked race. So there's definitely lots of interest in this forecasting, as I said before. But a great job to Age of Empires and everyone who played in that war. We got Core versus Monsters. These are two names that stand out. Looks like Core is running an Orc Smash Kingdom with some Dryad support, and then your TMs there. They've got 3 less provinces as well than Monsters. Monsters running Orc Avian Core with some Dwarves, Elf, Fairies, and Halfling as their TM crew. Let's take a look at what's going on in this war. Wow, that doesn't really tell me much of anything. Straight lines. It's like nothing happened on the land side of things. I'm not sure what happened in this war. Maybe the target finder's malfunctioning, but maybe the war is just too old and it's just not being displayed correctly. I'm just going to hold on a second. I'm just going to try and refresh.
Either that or they probably explored post-war, which is kind of what I see here.
Yeah, that's what it looks like to me.
Yeah,
you can see both sides explored massively post-war.
Yeah, so I guess they weren't really. Still, there's no real acre. It doesn't look like there's any acre exchange here at all. You know what I think?
That was honor that you clicked on.
Oh no, there's a bit of delay on the YouTube thing here. Oh, you know what? This war is just so old that the lines are all messed up because they are getting ready to leave ceasefire right now. So yeah, I'd have to zoom in a lot to see the whole war. It's kind of unfortunately these wars get spoiled because the way the data is portrayed once they get into the ceasefire portion of it. So great job everyone there. We couldn't really see what happened there. Let's move on to the next one. Cinematic Tomatoes versus Bold Move. Let's take a look at the land side of things. Looks like Bold Move took the victory here. Let's take a look at what got them that victory just by looking at the races. Just seeing a lot of halflings on Bold Move side. On Cinematic Tomatoes, that's probably the Kingdom Tomatoes that everybody knows. Looks like we got some avians.
That's a lot of halflings.
Yeah. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 halflings. That's almost half the kingdom. It is half the kingdom because they don't even have. How many?
They win that war? Looks like they did.
Yeah, Bold Move took the victory.
Night Strike out of protection.
Yeah, Night Strike out of protection was exactly my thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely, and it definitely worked out well for them. Lots of elves. This is a very TM heavy kingdom. Be interesting to keep an eye on them. Definitely a Bold Move, playing with so many TMs. So definitely a kingdom to keep an eye on. And no shock that the mixed kingdoms seem to be having more trouble winning the wars, especially when you're.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see how that KD fares going on actually, with the full mostly elf halfling comp and the 2 random orcs.
Yeah, exactly. Be interesting to keep an eye on these guys. I'll definitely keep an eye on these guys to see how they go through this. I would imagine.
I think they're really living up to their name.
Yes.
Bold Move, yeah, 100%.
All right, so great job, Bold Move. You really had a strong performance here. I'd say your setup basically crushed these guys out of the gate. They had a strong start here, but as you can see, wave over wave, they were just taking damage that they couldn't handle. So great job, guys. We'll keep an eye on you for the rest of the age. Random Bunch versus Unnamed Kingdom. What do we got here in terms of races? Looks like, again, 2 mixed kingdoms. You got uneven players on both sides as well. Looking at the land side of things, pretty close together. Nothing serious happening on the exchanges. Net worth side of things, definitely Unnamed Kingdom took full control of this war and basically dominated. Let's see why. It's one of those kingdoms that has 1 less province as well, winning wars. Anyway, random bunch. We got an avian, probably part of their core. Some dryads. I would bet they're attacking as well. As support casters. Dwarfs for attackers. Elves as their support. Fairy. Lots of humans here. So maybe those humans are pureblood. Those humans are pureblood, and I guess these guys aren't running rogues, or their fairy is the one rogue possibly. I would think though that they're not running rogues at all, and that fairy's probably a pureblood fairy. Humans and some orcs. So this is a half human kingdom. So the first one we've seen so far with so many humans as part of their core. Unfortunately, they did lose, which is kind of expected for human out of the gate. As you said, it's more of a medium to late age race to play. Looking at the unnamed kingdom, the victory side here, we got 2 avians for attacking, 4 dryad. This is the dryad heavy kingdom as well. 2, 4, 6, 8 dryads as part of their core. We got elf casters, human, probably core, and orc core as well. So yeah, it's another dryad victory here, basically, with one less province as well.
I think they had the same amount of provinces because the other kingdom has 1 in protection. So it looks like they were evenly matched when they went in.
Oh yeah, thanks for pointing that out. Yeah, sour cream is actually in protection, so they weren't actually part of the war. So it was an evenly matched war, which means they got dominated even more so by this number. Looking at the network.
Maybe that's the sleeper core at the moment, the dryad mix, because there seems to be a lot more than what I expected there would be, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think Dryad Core sounds really, really good in Out of Protection War, where it's just like, how many dragons can you send?
Correct, yeah.
But you just want to sit there and tank it and not worry about the few other provinces that you've got. Like, you're going to be crushing.
A lot of people are afraid of dragons as well. I mean, they'll refuse to go to wars because they know the other kingdom can fund X number of dragons. Or, their ability to fund dragons or not be affected by dragons plays a huge part in that as well. So I think people are seeing Dryad as an easy way to avoid that and still get some nice benefits from playing Dryad as well. It's definitely a good race to play for sure. So great job, Unnamed Kingdom. You definitely took the victory in this one. Great job to both sides. Let's look at the next one. Right, we got World's End versus Supervillains. Take a look at World's End. We got 2 avians for attacking. We got 2, 4, 6 dryads. Good number of dryads. Most likely attackers. Dwarf. We got 2 elves as casters. 2 halfling, probably rogues. Human core, I would guess, and then some orcs. So it seems like a lot of kingdoms are just picking everyone has this one-off human province. I'm seeing that is starting to be a trend for anyone that actually has humans in their kingdom. It's like one person wants to play it for some reason, maybe just because they like humans for the sake of playing humans. But the other
look, at the end of the day,
yeah, go ahead.
If you can play human right to play human right, you're not going to lose out of it, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. And then looking at Super Shock, but you beat the Dryad Kingdom out of protection, which has actually kind of been a trend so far that's been emerging, that the Dryad heavy kingdoms are actually winning more wars out of protection than everybody else. But great job for breaking that trend. This again was a little bit, not a very long war, this is probably a medium war, but again we're still trending in the medium to long wars right now. So again, it looks like everyone's having some pretty decent wars, and they must be enjoying them, otherwise they probably would have withdrawn sooner. I don't know. Let's check out the next war. Great job, everyone. Let's take a quick look to see who's won so far. It looks like Unnamed Kingdom won here. I hate when they tag as Unnamed Kingdom. There's been like 5 or 6 Unnamed Kingdoms already. Let's take a look at their setup here on Unnamed Kingdom, who took the victory here. It looks like a Orc Avian mashup with 4 Dryads as support, probably a Dwarf attacker, Elves, Fairies, and a Halfling with 1 human as well. Again, there's your token human on the one side here. Does this side have a token human? No, they do not. But this is a Dryad heavy kingdom. Again, this theme sucks. This is breaking the trend so far that we've seen that the Dryads are winning out of protection regularly. This is an example where they did not as well. This is 2 wars back to back now where the Dryads did not win out of protection. But again, this is I would say a medium war again as well, not very long. So this war's been done for a while now as well. In fact, a lot of these earlier wars, people are just leaving their ceasefires now, looking for their second wars or getting ready for their second wars. So
it's interesting because I'm just going through my own thought process here, Persian, but you know, it's good to see like smaller KD numbers go up against the bigger KDs. Obviously, you know, they've lost this war, but maybe there might be an opportunity where Persian and I might have to think about in the future what we can do to try and reward, you know, smaller KDs taking up bigger challenges. It's just hard, obviously, from a balance perspective, because anything we do can always get abused. But yeah, I think if a smaller kingdom is trying to take on a bigger challenge, we want to try and reward that, you know, and not get them punished for it because, you know, they just get smashed by the bigger kingdom.
Yeah, and how do you balance that? I mean, that's a really tough thing to work around. Again, like, you know, ghetto vets would love something like that. They'd be on top of the world.
Yeah.
You know, let's look at the next one here. Great job, everyone there. Phoenix Rising versus, again, another unnamed kingdom. Let's look at the land side of things, see if this is over yet. It looks like unnamed kingdom has grasped victory here. Again, it looks, you know, there's a lot of kingdoms running this mixture of avian and orc. Either a lot more avians, and then it's like split on dryads. So like, you know, whatever avians are replaced, they're replaced by dryads, which is the case in this kingdom. So kind of a dryad heavy kingdom. These avians might be part dryad as well, and then orc attackers with some humans, and very light on the TMs in this kingdom. Lots of attackers, and it looks like they beat a similar kingdom, orc, avian, dryads with some elves and fairies. Definitely unnamed kingdom won because they have more attackers here and just more provinces in general. You know, I would have expected them to win this one, I think, just again because they're so similar. And then they just had one extra province, but they also have more real attackers than you know, these kingdoms had. This other kingdom, Phoenix Rising, kind of had more TMs, so I think they just weren't as prepared to face a kingdom like this out of protection. That's for sure, because they definitely, you know, it looks like they fought hard at the beginning, but on the network side of things, you know, they weren't really able to achieve any kind of convergence here after their first 3 waves. So I mean, you know, the enemy basically converged 3 times and then they took off, and that was the end of it, and they won that war. So great job to everyone there. It seems to be like avian, again, as I said, avian, dryad, orc seems to be a very popular pick. Everyone seems to like orcs so much that they have at least, you know, maybe 4 to 6 orcs, but you know, that may not be enough when you get to end of age. As we talked about before, orcs are better in numbers, bigger numbers, that is. So let's look at the next war. Screw You Wordle versus Reasons to Swipe Left. I guess that's some sort of Tinder reference. Let's check out KD Land. Reasons to Swipe Left actually took this war win, so we're going to take a look at their races and what they picked here. We've got 3 avians, dryads probably support. They'll probably, again, those very likely could be part avians. Lots of orcs here as well. And then, you know, they got four elves, 2 fairies, 2 halflings, and again the token human. This kingdom, on the other hand, on the other side, Screw You Wordle has more humans as part of their core. So again, it's a human-heavy kingdom. So maybe it's not a shock that they actually lost this war, because again, the humans.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, look, you're seeing what a more heavier human core is playing out of MOP at the moment.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, that pretty much sealed the deal for them there. I mean, they were up against orcs and avians, probably the 2 best attackers.
Yep, and you can see again the elves all piled on, and fairies all piled on acres. So they probably were able to convert to unbreakable, while the enemy's humans couldn't continue to match that.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, they didn't do very poorly either. I mean, both sides were able to walk away with a good number of acres, although, of course, the Blue Kingdom took their victory bonus. But, you know, if you look at it, there really wasn't too much of a difference there. Remember, these lines are only by 2.5K, so, you know, just keep that in mind. This is not 5K lines, so this war is actually a lot closer than it appears. It got zoomed in because that's how close it was, actually. So great job to both sides. Again, this is a shorter war, so chalk 1 up for the shorter wars. Great job. Reasons to swipe left. Let's move on to the next one. We're getting close to the end here. Everyone, thanks for staying tuned for so long. There may be some technical difficulties with Discord where some of the respondents may experience a lag. But again, everything is being recorded on both sides, so we won't really miss anything. So be sure to check out the YouTube broadcast after the show if you missed anything, or if you just didn't see the show at all. Again, thank you everyone who's joining live in the Muga Discord. We pretty much be doing this for every show, so if you want to be part of the the action, be sure to join in Muga, and you can ask questions and be part of the live discussion. All right, so let's look at the next word.
Wordle theme.
Yeah, Wordle. Looks like colors, if this is the actual kingdom colors, they clinched victory here. It looks like they were in full control of this war. I mean, they dominated throughout. Let's take a look. Yeah, this is definitely colors. I mean, they've got their standard colors names, so it looks like colors is back. We're in force this age. Be interesting to see how they do. Colors usually starts off very strong, but has a slower finish. But let's see if they can manage to break that. Let's see what they won with here. They got an avian orc core. 3 humans, 2 halflings for rogues, 2 fairies for in-betweens, and 2 elves as your true casters with a token dwarf. And of course your avians and dryads. So again, avian, dryad, orc seems to be a very popular combination with some token humans or dwarves as well, as your kind of in-betweens. I guess people just wanted to play. Haven't seen anyone really play anything like too singular. Like no one really has a solid just orc core really, or just avian core. I guess a couple kingdoms have already, but there's not too many. I mean, there's a lot of mixed kingdoms out there this age. But again, we're missing to see what they are. And again, breaking from the dryad tradition of winning out of protection, colors defeated a dryad heavier kingdom. And they had 2 dryads themselves, but the other side had 5 dryads. So for argument's sake, they defeated the dryad heavy kingdom, and it looks like this was a little bit of a longer war as well. So chalk another war up for the longer ones. Did you guys have anything you wanted to say about this one?
I think one thing that we're seeing out of Protection Wars is, much like you want orcs in numbers, you want dryads in numbers. So I think you lose a lot of the benefit if you have like 5 or 6 versus an actual full core.
Yeah, because the dragon protection is just steamrolling that apparently. So
it's just look, and this is a bit of an old school thinking, but it's the multiplicative effect. Like if you're going to go kill stack, and you want to kill stack and you want to do it well, then my personal opinion is you go full orc mode. If you want to tank dragons and just throw dragons out of op, as Persian was talking about, then you go heavier in those numbers. So I think when you got to find that right balance when you're mixing it up, and you've got to think about the approach, and we're seeing that play out in some of these wars right now.
Welcome to the discussion, Fox.
Hey, I just wanted to comment on, I heard you guys talking about the dragon aspect of dryads, but dryads out of projection, they're going to have a lot less losses because of that 20%. And it's that a lot of kingdoms, they try to just kind of econ it through, and they don't build a lot of hospitals. And so as the war goes on, there's a lot of attrition. So it's not just dragons.
100% agree, Fox. I think loss attrition is, going to be critical to this age in general, not just out of protection with the, how many orcs were there again, Wind? I think there was like 400 plus on the server. So, anyone that is not thinking about loss protection this age, you're going to be in for a world of punishment later on. And I think Dryad definitely plays to those strengths. I remember seeing in Genesis when people were playing some Dryads that they were at the top right at the end, both in honor and size, and I think that's just down to their ability to tank, really. They've got a good kit behind them, and that's showing.
Absolutely, and orcs do make up a quarter of the server. That's 486 orcs. So yeah, I mean, it's no surprise. I mean, that's kind of what we expected to see there. Let's see, where were we here? Ah, yes. We're looking at Oh wow, we've been through quite a few wars already. Yeah, we just finished the colors one. This is an interesting war. Unnamed Kingdom versus Can't Go For That. It's 2 versus 2. Monarch and Stewart versus Monarch and Stewart. Interesting to see such a small war. I don't think I've ever seen that happen before. Basically 2 provinces going at it. Yeah, we'll see what happens, but looks like Unnamed Kingdom. There's another Unnamed Kingdom, by the way. Sorry, this is like the 8th kingdom that's Unnamed Kingdom. Definitely looks like Unnamed Kingdom has a good chance to lose this war, though. Maybe the other side's a little bit more experienced. To me, it looks like these guys are trying to play Genesis and World of Legends, but we'll leave them alone and see what happens there. Actually, it kind of
love to see this war play out. I'm kind of interested in the 2v2.
Yeah, and I mean, it definitely looks like they've kind of gone neck and neck, and maybe the only reason I'm seeing more damage on the one side is because the other side has to do their wave, which is probably the only case there. So we'll see what happens when this war completes. It's past mid-time already by 9 hours, so we'll see what happens. Sorry, 9 hours, yeah, 9 hours. So yeah,
and it's double humans. 2 humans on a side. See if they can pull. I'm ready for the humans.
Yeah, 2 humans versus a Dryad and a Dwarf. I would say the Dryad and the Dwarf definitely have the advantage here, but see what these humans can do. All right, let's look at the next one. Looks like we got a full-size war here this time. We're going to take a look here. This war is just past min-time by a few ticks. Looks like they achieved victory actually at min-time. Just so chalk one up to the short wars. We got a min-time victory here. Into the Warp versus Sexy Spider, synchronously bop. Sexy Spider, synchronously bop. Okay, that's quite a fancy name and a tongue twister. KD Land basically just shows them dominating the whole time. That's the Sexy Spiders. The Red Kingdom dominating net worth. As you can see, they're doing quite a bit of damage on the waves here. On our side of things, we expect to see something similar. Essentially, yeah, I mean, they come in with less. This is a great play for Sexy Spiders. I mean, they come in, take over a kingdom with more honor, and end up walking away with most of it. But again, you know, the kingdom really never loses too much into the warp. You know, maintains their honor essentially where they join the war. So looking at Sexy Spiders here, it looks like we got 4 Dryads, 4 Dwarves, Elves or Casters, Fairy for in between, and your Halfling Rogues. 4 humans in this kingdom with some orcs versus, you know, they were up 2 provinces. It doesn't look like anyone was in protection, but they were facing mostly Dryad, Orc core, and then they've got 3 rogues, 2 fairies, and 3 elves as their TM core. So definitely more of a TM, you know, more of a TM if you include the support caster heavy kingdom on the one side. I'd say, you know, Sexy Spiders probably had better attackers.
I'd expect any 25 KD versus, you know, a 23 KD out of op to win.
Yeah, and they really did. You know, when you look at the net worth side of things, this is one of those instances where, you know, this war only looks like, you know, it's such a big difference. But really the only difference is not having those 2 extra provinces really makes a huge difference. Right off the bat, they were outnumbered because essentially their net worth is inflated. If you know, by province, if you break it down by number of provinces, their number was like overinflated versus the Sexy Spiders from the get-go. So even though on net worth side of things it looks like they're kind of similar, in reality they're not. So once the damage starts being done, it's, you know, it's so much, it looks so much worse than it actually is. But yeah, I mean, it looks like they almost managed to shave off. This war's still in progress, by the way, but it looks like Sexy Spiders has almost shaved off 1 million net worth from Into the Warp. 867,909. So they're definitely on track to win this for sure. No, sorry, they already did. This is a min-time war that they won, right? And as you said,
I was gonna say, look, if it wasn't a min-time war, look for the exit.
Yeah, and as you said, it's a 25-player kingdom versus a 23-person kingdom. So I mean, what do you expect there? Looking at the next war, great job everyone, by the way. The EU of Utopia War 611 versus Aussie Slang warring the EU. These are really funny names. All right, let's take a look and see if anyone's finished this war just yet. Where we're at, we're only at 44 hours, so it's very likely there could be a min-time war coming up here. Let's take a look at the race breakdowns here. So on the EU of Utopia war, we've got 3 dryads, a lot of elves, 5 humans, and an orc core. So I guess the elves are just all their casters. They're probably running fireballs and chastity or something like that. And then lots of humans and orcs.
This one's still going? Looks like it is.
Yeah, it's only 44 hours in, so they've got at least 4 more ticks until min time. But looking at the land side of things, the Red Kingdom's definitely in control. Looks like Blue Kingdom tried to pull back here with a strong convergence wave after several waves of non-convergence. But it definitely looks like the Red Kingdom, that's Aussie slang, was actually able to pull back out of their rut from their wave. So it's very likely that they're going to win this one, I would say. But it's interesting to see the Blue Kingdoms return. They had a very strong convergence there on their last one. Where that wave was in the last 3 waves, I'm not sure what happened there, but you know, if they had had those types of waves from the get-go, this would probably be a totally different war. Looking down at the numbers, these are even sides, and on the other side here, this is Aussie slang, has 3 avians, 2, 4 dryads, dwarves, elves, and some orcs. Good mixture, but mostly attackers here.
Oh, look, my love goes out to an Aussie theme. I think no surprises there.
Yeah, and it looks like this is a pretty even war as well. I mean, you know, they're both pretty even on the net worth loss, as I said, due to that last wave from the Blue Kingdom. But Red is still having such a strong performance here. It seems like they just dropped the ball a little bit.
I mean, that last wave could have been adding hours on the next game, and that would account for the.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see. This war concludes in 4 hours, so we'll see what happened. Next war is only 26 hours old, so we're just going to kind of, you know, go through them quickly. If anything really stands out, we're going to take a quick look closer into what they've got. Haven't decided yet versus PM for war. We're looking at the net worth side of things. Definitely looks like PM for war is at a disadvantage here. They're very likely going to lose this war. They are short 2 players as well. Not looking good for them. I mean, we don't really need to look at the races because this looks like a war just based on the numbers alone that they were going to lose. But for argument's sake, I mean, it's mostly an orc core versus a mixed orc, human, dryad, dwarf core. So it's no surprise that the dwarf and the dryad are kind of able to take advantage of, you know, the orcs. And they're probably tanking a little bit at home, making it hard for the orcs to break in, meaning the orcs have to run less defense in order to attack them. So, you know, the orcs putting themselves at a disadvantage, trying to break those heavier defense provinces that are just core when they're trying to stay afloat by pulling in acres. So great job, guys. I think this war has already been decided yet. Haven't decided yet. You haven't picked your name, and you know, the enemy hasn't withdrawn yet, but it's definitely going to happen. I can see it in your future. Utopian excuses versus warring the deal breakers. I wonder if this is this must be. I wonder if this is the Utopian excuses kingdom from last age, and I wonder if, you know, warring the deal breakers is some kind of message to Utopian excuses. Who knows? Only those 2 kingdoms really knows. Maybe they had some kind of arranged war that was set up and it got messed up, or who knows what happened. But again, this war is only 16 hours old, so we're going to take a quick look, you know, to see if anything really stands out here. No need to go really in depth with it, but looks like Utopian excuses wasn't able to converge on their last 2 waves. These are even numbered kingdoms, so there's no excuses there. Looks like mostly orc cores, orc and dryad cores for the most part. One side just has more orcs than the others. And no surprise that the more orc side, or the side that has more orcs, and they have a significantly good amount of orcs in their kingdom, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13 provinces, so more than half of their kingdom is orc. That's a good number for a core, and then they've got the 2 dryads running support and a good TM core of fairies and elves to back them up. 4 fairies and 6 elves. That's definitely a nice solid TM setup there. So I would expect them, you know, warring the deal breakers, that is the Red Kingdom, probably to walk away with a victory on this, but only 16 hours in. It's hard to tell. Utopian Excuses is doing a great job pulling on the honor side anyway, making it seem like the deal breakers aren't actually doing that well, or maybe it's more of an evenly matched war, but they're not really taking, the honor side of things right now. They did just get waived, so we'll see what their response is. Hopefully sometime
Be interested
soon.
to see. I'm intrigued to know what those dwarfs are doing on Utopian Excuses, what their roles are.
Yeah,
it looks like an interesting war.
I'd like to see what the dwarves and humans are really up to, like if they're pure or if they're running some kind of hybrid role. So that might be something I might be pulling a few SOTs or CBs later, or during the age, just to check around. Probably for a more sooner than later Warcast in the future, where I can talk about that a little bit more. But again, just looking at this war, it's only 16 hours in, so deal breakers are definitely on the right path now. However, Utopian Excuses is right on your tail, so don't look back, because that could be the end of the war for you, despite me saying that you're doing well and on your path to victory. Alright, let's look at the next war. War Greed STFO versus Smooth Sailing War Greed with 7-5. This war is only 9 hours old, but it looks like we have some pretty good waves already. Both sides swung pretty hard. On the land side of things, War Greed stayed a little bit smaller as they came into the war. Network side of things, basically showing Smooth Sailing is going to be experiencing smooth sailing for the rest of the war if they keep doing waves like that, because the Red Kingdom already came in at a disadvantage, but it looks like they just had a very strong wave, so it'll be interesting to see on the honor side of things.
This is a brand new one, is it?
Yeah,
correct. This is the
9 hours.
Yeah, this is.
Yeah, it'll be interesting actually, because humans have had a little bit of time to kind of get themselves together, and it's quite a heavily slanted to human for smooth sailing. So I'd be interested to see how this one transpires.
Yeah, they've got seven humans backed by dwarves and some dryads. It looks like they've got good support there. This is probably more of a tanky kingdom. I would imagine they're probably leaving more defense at home. So first,
yeah, and both of these kingdoms have a war win, so you can tell that they definitely came out smashing.
Yeah, so they're serious. So there has been at least one war that we missed so far. Then, because again, as you said, these kingdoms already have a war win, so it's very likely they had a min-time victory and went straight into the next war. So great job, everyone there, and best luck to your new war. It looks like War Greed's not going to give up easy though, because they keep climbing in honor here. Despite your initial grab, it looks like they're really doing some damage that's still happening as we speak. So there's definitely a lot of cool things happening in this war. Be sure to check it out. Let's move on to the next one. Trolling My Monarch. They're only 7 hours in versus Year of the Tiger. Even on both sides in terms of numbers. Let's take a look at the land to see where we are. It looks like one side always has a little bit of a stronger performance. But it looks like this is going to be a close war as well.
Cool. Look at that Dryad core.
Yeah, so this will be this
again is one of the two sets of kingdoms that had wars, other wars.
Nice.
Is this a second war, Persian?
Correct. This is the second war for both these kingdoms.
Yeah, so that's two sets of wars then that we. It's very likely that the next two wars as well might be. So it's that's good to see that two kingdoms are already starting their second wars in Year 1 so early on. That means they'll be starting their next war around this time. As long as they have a quick victory.
Money is on Trolling My Monarch at the moment. Looking at that.
Yeah, and I mean they definitely got a strong setup, so it's definitely an experienced kingdom playing that. And again, this is probably one of the fewest different selections of actual races out of all the kingdoms we've looked at so far. One thing we were talking about earlier was how
wouldn't be surprised if that's I would be curious to do some sorts on that, but I wouldn't be surprised if that's a 2-race setup there, full Dryad True Blood and full Elf True Blood.
Oh, absolutely.
Looks like it.
It's a nice great setup. I mean, they're all casting support spells on each other or casting support spells for themselves. Dryad's great by itself as well. Elf is your number one TM, your mage powerhouse, so Fireballs and Chastity away. Probably some. Does Elf get Nightmare? I can't even remember. Sometimes I forget which who gets what because I don't.
Fairy gets Nightmare.
Fairy gets Nightmare? Okay. Yeah, so unless those... Does Fairy get Nightmare as well on... if it's a half-blood?
It does.
Alright, so yeah, so it's very possible, like, again, without SOTs we wouldn't know. Maybe they are doing some kind of weird nightmare thing with that setup, but... you know, only time will tell. Again, this war is only 6 hours in. So, again, Dryad Heavy Kingdom, be interesting to see. Yeah, I mean, it looks like they already won their first war, so looks like they're on track to win their second war. So chalk one up for the Dryad Kingdoms again, and this is like a really pure Dryad Kingdom as well. I mean, the whole core is Dryads. So great job, guys. Let's look at the next one, Court of Aaron versus Hostile. This one's only 5 hours in. Let's see how it's going. Huge disparity in numbers here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 provinces missing in Hostile. Aaron should definitely be able to take this victory unless, again, 6 or 7 provinces on their side are not really playing. The numbers are a lot closer than I think they probably should be for the disparity in the provinces. But again, Court of Aaron still managing control of this war so far. Looks like, you know, Hostile doesn't really have a chance to take them out. Anything's possible though. So let's move on to the next one. The next one's only 4 hours in. They're missing 1 province on Pirates. Is missing 1 province rather. Again, we're only 4 hours in. Looks like Pirates is just being waived right now, but Pirates is still on top. So Pirates is running Avian. 1 avian, that is, with 4 dryads, 2, 4, 6 dwarves, 2, 4 elves, 2 fairies, and 2, 4, 6 orcs. So again, another orc, avian, dryad split kingdom with a bunch of dwarves as well to back them up. So yeah, it's kind of, we're seeing the same thing here. A lot of people picked basically just avian, dryad, dwarf, orc, essentially, or you know, avian, dryad, dwarf, elf, fairy, orc seems to be a very popular mix this age. The opposite side is running 3 dryads, 2, 4, 6, 7, I can't even count right now. 2, 4, 6, 7 dwarves, and 4 elves, 3 fairies, a human, and 6 orcs as well. So it's similar setup. I mean, there's really not much difference at all there. You know, they're basically doing the same kind of strategy. So best of luck to everyone on that side. I just want to thank everyone for joining in the conversation today. Thanks so much to Benji, of course, who reached out to me and wanted to initiate this Warcast today, and we made time in both of our schedules to make sure this could happen. Thanks to everyone who joined, and again, thanks so much for Persian Cat for joining later on in the discussion, C-Dob and Fox for joining and giving your feedback and asking any questions. Thank you to everyone in the audience, especially Eldest, who joined even for the sound test, which happened before the live recording had taken place. So thank you everyone for checking it out. As I said, I'm not sure 100% when the next Warcast will actually be at this time, but it's very likely there's going to be another one in the near future. So thank you again to everyone who joined for the discussion today. I need to do some groceries before the store closes. Thank you everyone for joining, and have a great night or day. This is your host,
Thanks, Wind.
Signing off.
Yep, thanks, Wind. Cheers.
Have a great night, everyone, or a great day.
Thanks.